Well, we're here today at Vernon Puzey's place just outside of Red Deer, Alberta, and it's quite an honor and a pleasure to be here at Corvallis Angus Ranch, and very well known through the years. So I'm going to ask Vernon a few questions, and he's going to give us some statements and answers about through the years. So the first one, Vernon, when did you get started and how did you get started? Your first cattle in the Angus business?
Well, I've shown you that dispersal catalog when my mom and dad retired, and Tom Leader was manager. Well, Tom Leader had a son called Tom that was in the same agriculture classes as I was in high school, and he got me interested in registered Angus cattle. So I talked my dad into buying his first few registered cows. So that would have been like in 1949.
Okay.
So, and Dad was always interested in good cattle and stuff. So anyway, it just, you know, evolved from that. So, and then I showed you that catalog when he and Mother retired. My brother and I, who were in partnership with him with these cattle at this point, we decided to sell all the cattle. So as the rest of the family couldn't say you cheated the old man. So anyway, that's what we did. And then from there on, and my brother and I went back into the business. We bought, I don't know, half a dozen or something out of the sale. That was part of the arrangement. And but anyway, so that's, you know, it goes back to 1949 when we had our first registered cow.
So was it always called Corvallis?
No, but very soon after my dad had got involved in it, it became apparent that we needed a prefix to register cattle. So he had been reading an article in National Geographic magazine on a college town in Oregon called Corvallis. And so my brother and my sister Nancy were both taking Latin in high school at the time as an extra subject. So he said to these two, when you go to school today, I want you to research this word Corvallis. I think I know what it means, but I want you to come home and tell me. So when they come home, they said, well, basically translated to English, it means heart of the valley. So that's how. So my dad chose the name.
Okay. Right on. So when you and Henry had your herd together, what would your numbers have been as far as cow numbers? And
well, we started, like I say, I think we bought half a dozen of the dispersal sale when my dad and mom retired. Right. And then we bought some from, what's his name, Robertson in Saskatchewan. Kim's dad.
Kim's dad, yeah. Well,
and actually, Little Poundmaker's dam goes back to one of those from his place.
Tom Robertson.
Tom Robertson.
Okay, yeah, that Alsace there. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
So, and at that point, Anita and I only had like 8 or 10 females.
Okay.
And big story, but the day I was 30 years old, no, I'm lying. The day I was 40 years old at this time. It seemed like a milestone, and I come up to the house after doing some chores and said to Anita, you know, I have had the ambition to have 100 registered Angus cows of my own. And I tell you what, if we're ever going to do it, we got to get stuck in and do it. So we did.
Mm-hmm. And that's when you had enough to have a sale and started having.
Yeah. So then, when I sold this interest in Poundmaker to Billy Molson,
right, and
I sold these cattle in his sale, it encouraged me to get brave and have our own production sale the very next year.
Right. And
it worked. So.
How many sales did you have, Vernon? Do you remember? Or?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't just remember.
That's all right.
But we had, well, that was from 1970. We had our first sale in 74, and we had our last sale, when did I give you that book? In 1990, I think it was.
So you had about 16 sales.
Yeah,
Right.
and we had a sale every year.
Right.
And we had a very modest sale barn that I had built because it was cheap to build and everything, but it worked. And some of these millionaire types that come from America sitting in it, they didn't mind at all. They thought it was, in fact, I remember there was a guy from California. They were good friends of your dad, him and his wife, Buck and Barb Stevens.
Right, right.
And the first time they come to my sale, I mean, here, these people got money, and so, here, and Buck come to me after the sale, and he said, you know, I just love this place, it's so ranchy, my sale barn, you know? I got some moose horns and whatnot on the wall, and
Right.
here, I was kind of apologetic because of my modest sale barn,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
but it worked.
No, sure. Well, so, through them sales, I mean, you showed us a couple of highlights there when you sold them bull calves, so that one especially down to Erdman's in South Dakota. Maybe just talk about that a little bit.
Well, that was the start of everything for us, I guess, because, you know, we were, Anita Quint and I were, quite frankly, struggling a bit financially to buy my brother out and everything. And so, when, okay, I sold the first female heifer calf in one of those calf sales that the association put on in Calgary, and
Superstar.
Baldridge was the
Yeah.
auctioneer and the manager.
Sure.
And she was a very attractive female. She should have been the highest priced heifer calf there, but I'm a new kid on the block sort of thing. Dr. Oh, what's his name? He was a medical doctor. He bought her anyway, and she was the family name was a Kathleen, and he produced many progeny called Kathleen from her. And so anyway, Baldridge had remembered this, and I had trying to do a sale job on him, showing him pictures of pound maker and stuff. And so he come to the farm after that sale, and he had a look at pound maker. And he never told me, and Molson never told me, but I know darn well what happened was because Molson was involved. And he went to see Molson and said, you better get over there and buy an interest in that bull. Because pretty soon, along come Molson and wanted to buy an interest. So I sold him a half interest in the bull.
Wow.
And so then that would have been, well, that would have been in '73. So.
And then you sold the bull calf out of him.
And then the very next, well, in '73, we sold this bull calf for Erdman for $19,000. And again, I think it was because of Baldridge had been talking to Erdman and said, you get up there and have a look at this calf. So he and a friend of his from Iowa come here in the summer and looked at the calf in the field. But on sale day, he just bought him over the telephone. No, he wasn't even here.
Oh.
So when he come to pick him up, he wouldn't let anybody else pick him up because that's most money he'd ever spent for an animal in his life.
Right.
And so, oh, he was almost sick at his stomach about how much he paid for this calf and everything. So, well, I think it's a hell of a joke because, well, I'm very proud of the fact that, you know, the first progeny he sold in a production sale from this little pound maker he bought from me, he averaged $26,000
Oh,
on both heifer calves and bull calves. And so, I mean, it literally made Leroy a millionaire overnight. For the first time in his life, he had a production sale. He had a gross of over $600,000. Everything was okay.
so Vern, when you dispersed your cattle in I can't remember. You
Well, in 1990, I think.
1990, yeah.
I don't know what they did with the
We had the catalog here, but was that right here? I can't remember
Yes,
being
yeah.
at the sale. I probably was
Yeah,
here, but I can't.
we had it here.
Sure. And the cattle went all over at that time?
Yes, they did, yeah.
And,
Well, I made my own decision, I guess, in conjunction with Anita, but it was me that come to the decision. And I've always been like that. I want to make my own decisions on things like this. I decided that it was maybe time to cut back on all the cattle. And I was going to keep 20 registered cows. But then I come to the realization, unfortunately, I think, that if I kept 20, pretty soon I'd have 100 again. So I wouldn't gain anything. So we sold them all, we dispersed them. And many of my fellow breeders in the business couldn't believe that I wasn't going to go back into it again tomorrow. They couldn't believe that that I was having a dispersal, just having a dispersal, you know. So anyway,
That's how it went. And since that time, Vern, I've seen you out at a lot of functions
Yeah.
with the Angus
well,
business.
it's hard to give up.
And seems like you've kept pretty good track of it, so.
Well, I've tried to kind of keep in the loop a little bit, but it's because at one point it was my whole life,
Sure.
this Angus cattle business, and so you would remember a lady who is club leader for the 4-H club, I'm sure, called Mrs. Morton, maybe
Oh,
Morton?
sure. Yeah, she was my 4-H leader.
Okay.
When I was little.
Well, my dad tells the story because the Morton family and the Puzey family have known one another since the early 1900s and been friends. And my dad and his brothers used to custom thrash over at the Morton farm years and years ago. Anyway, I remember him telling me this story about the old original Mrs. Morton. Mamie's husband, John, was just a young fellow then, and at the supper table with this thrashing crew, you know, the crew was talking about something, and Johnny didn't quite understand what they were, so he said, "What's that? What are you talking about?" Well, his mother piped up and she said, "My son, you must keep posted." So
There you go.
I say that about myself with the Angus business.
Well, that's
I'm trying
good.
to kind of keep posted.
Well, that's good, Vern. Yeah. Well, I think that's been great sitting here today and visit with you, Vernon. These things always need more time, but we look forward to you coming down to the event on the 17th of August, I believe it is, and bringing Matthew with you, your son that's
And
was
his
involved
wife,
also, and
Annalise.
his wife also, and we'd sure appreciate it if you brought them guest books that day
Yeah,
to show
okay,
people.
sure,
I think
we'll do that.
there's some unbelievable names in the books there to
Well,
look at that a lot of people
there
know,
is.
and I think it would be nice to show them off a little bit.
Okay,